You're right guys, Toolstop and DeWalt recently asked me if I'd be interested in helping out with some projects to help raise money for the Birmingham Children's Hospital. Now some of you may know, Birmingham Children's Hospital saved my life numerous times when I was younger and I spent a big chunk of my childhood there. So of course I'm all for getting involved and giving something back to those that gave me everything. I really hope you like this first project. This project starts off with a major fail. I went through the process of cutting melamine pieces to create a form in which to cast concrete. I'd never casted concrete before, but I made sure all the edges were wrapped in cling film. I used a ready mix. And I made sure all the air bubbles were removed and it was distributed evenly. I think where I went wrong was removing it far too early from its mould. As you can see, I had an absolute disaster and it all crumbled once it was removed. So it was back to the drawing board. I wanted to maintain the industrial style, so I thought plywood would be a good choice. It's underused for decorative purposes and I personally think it can look great. So with 3 pieces cut to length at the miter saw, 2 of the pieces needed a centre piece removed, so this will leave space for the walnut base later. I drilled holes in the 4 corners so I could easily cut it with a jigsaw. With those cut out, it was time to glue up the plywood base. After the glue was dried, I roughly marked out where the Cityscape and LEDs would go. Using a router with a straight bit, and a guide fence attached, I trenched out the grooves to receive the LEDs and the wooden Cityscape. Because the router leaves rounded corners, I used a chisel to square up the edges. I had some offcuts of walnut that were perfect for the Cityscape. They were rough sawn, so a couple passes with the planer soon smoothed them out. It was time to cut them to size and shape. I didn't have a particular Cityscape in mind, I just knew I wanted it tallest in the middle and I didn't want them to be all flat top buildings, so I cut some angles too. To help define each building I heavily sanded the edges, that way when they're all glued up they still look like individual pieces rather than one panel. This project is to raise money for the Birmingham Children's Hospital, so I wanted to incorporate a stylised version of their logo, which is a balloon. A couple of holes drilled, joined up with a jigsaw, and smoothed out with a file gave me the balloon shape. I'm going to use resin for the balloon, so I clamped some melamine behind the hole to stop the resin from running everywhere. I could then mix the epoxy resin together and add a tiny amount of red pigment. I wanted the resin to still be translucent. I poured it into the balloon space and left it to set. While it was setting, I could work on the walnut base. I cut it to match the size of the plywood base. I wanted a reveal around the edge, so that will be routed away, and I also needed a space for the LED light electronics, so that will also be routed away. I removed the material for the LED electronics first. Then I created the reveal around all 4 sides. When the plywood is on top, I wanted a 6mm gap reveal at the bottom. This should give the look of floating. To achieve the gap, I simply glued on some pieces of walnut and left them to dry. With those drying, I drilled a hole in the plywood base to give room for the LEDs to feed through. Then it was time for a test fit. I was happy with the reveal around the bottom, so I drilled 2 pilot holes that will receive screws later. With the chamfer bit in the router, I eased over the top edges. Now the resin had set and it was time to see what it looked like. I was really happy with it. To create the string to the balloon, I added a profile bit to the router and freehand carved it. This then got filled with milliput epoxy putty. After leaving the putty to cure overnight, I came back the next day to sand it flush and reveal the design. A chisel was used to remove the excess putty. Then everything got sanded by hand to 240 grit. The LEDs have a receiver for a remote control which needs to have an opening, and there also needs to be an opening at the back for power too. Drilling a couple of holes sorted that out. To make the reveal on the base disappear even more, I masked off the bottom and then painted it black. This really helped in hiding it. While the paint was drying, I glued the Cityscape into the groove I routed earlier. With the paint dry, it was time to add the finish. I used 5 coats of spray lacquer, sanding between each coat. This gave me the final look I wanted. The last job is to add the LEDs. The receiver pokes through the front and is held in place with a little hot glue. Power comes in from the back and the LED strip is fed up through the opening in the plywood base. The strip is self-adhesive, but I also added some hot glue just to make sure everything was secure. None of this will be seen behind the Cityscape anyway. Adding the 2 screws secures everything together while still giving easy access inside if needed. I hope you like the finished light.
So that's it then guys, that's the Cityscape light. Now I haven't got the full details about how the auction is going to be run yet. Toolstop I'm going to be putting it on. But as soon as I have the details about the auction, I'll be sure to post a dedicated video with links and everything that you need to know about getting involved with it. I really hope we can raise a lot of money for the Birmingham Children's Hospital with this one. Thank you all for watching. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. Please leave comments down below, I answer all of them. Share it around with your friends. The more people that get to see this, hopefully the more funds we can raise. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, click the little bell icon next to it to get notifications, so when I do let you know about the auction, you'll be able to see straight away as soon as it's uploaded. And that's it then guys, thank you all for watching again.